Darkwing Blast is a crazy good set. What's going on, guys? Super Insane 18 here, and today we are going to be talking about the cards that you need to pick up out of Darkwing Blast. The sneak peek is this weekend coming up, at least it is for me, so it should be for everybody else. It's about a week before the set drops, and I believe the set drops on the 21st, so this weekend we should be able to start getting our hands on it, and there are some really good cards in it, and I've never made a video like this before, so hopefully you guys enjoy it. If you do, make sure to smash the like button so that I know you want to see more videos like this in the future. But let's go ahead and talk about the first card that we definitely want to pick up from the new set, Darkwing Blast. That is going to be Spellbound. Spellbound is a secret rare spell that is actually a TCG exclusive, and this card is essentially like a D-barrier on steroids, because what it does is, I'll go ahead and read the effect for you guys. It reads, all face-up monsters your opponent currently controls cannot be tributed or used as material for a fusion, synchro, XYZ, or link summon until the end of this turn. So you guys can see why I am comparing it to Dimensional Barrier, because it essentially just locks you out of all of the different types of summoning, including link summoning, which is not on Dimensional Barrier because Dimensional Barrier actually predates link monsters. So this card is really strong because for link-based strategies, it also locks your opponent out. Now, the one caveat of this card is that it's only the monsters they currently control, so if they have ways of putting more monsters on the field, then yes, they are able to use those, which you can argue might make it a little bit weaker than Dimensional Barrier, because Dimensional Barrier locks them out of a specific summoning type for the entire turn, but this does all of the summoning types instead of just the one that you call, and honestly, if you do it at the right time, can definitely shut down your opponent, and I think this card is absolutely incredible, which is why it is the first card we are talking about. If you are not able to get this card, then you're probably not going to have too good of a time, because if your opponent has this, you're probably just going to lose that game, so make sure that you get this card if you can. I believe I saw pre-sales for like $40, which honestly isn't even that bad for a card this powerful, so $120, yeah, might not be necessarily in your budget, but if you are trying to play this game competitively, absolutely pick up Spellbound. Now, for the second card we're going to talk about, this is going to be a replacement for Pankratops, and you guys know how good Pankratops has been in previous formats. It's limited to one for a reason. That card is going to be Kashtira Fenrir. Now, Kashtira Fenrir reads, if you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only use each of the following effects of Kashtira once per turn. During your main phase, you can add one Kashtira monster from your deck to your hand. When this card declares an attack, or if your opponent activates a monster effect, you can target one face-up card your opponent controls, banish it face down. Now, this card is incredibly strong, and the reason you compare it to Pankratops is because it is a free special summon that can also just clear a card on the field, but it does much more than that. I'm going to go ahead and throw some gameplay on the screen. This card by itself immediately outs a 4-material Appaloosa. As you'll see in the replay, if they negate the effect to search, they then have the same amount of attack, and then you swing into it, and then they either let it crash and die, or they negate the effect that you're going to use to banish. Even if they don't negate the first effect, they're going to have to negate the banish effect, and then that puts them down to 2400, which makes them the same attack as the Kashtira Fenrir. So this card, like I said, by itself just completely outs a 4-material Appaloosa, but more than just that, it is a free special summon that is a little bit easier than Pankratops. Pankratops, your opponent has to control cards, meaning that if you're going first, it's just entirely irrelevant. This, even if you open it going first, you're still able to summon it and then either A, leave it on the field as a form of interruption, or B, if you need to, you can use it as material for another summon, whether that be a tribute or a link summon or whatever you might need. But not only that, it can also search another copy of itself. It does just say you search one Kashtira monster. It does not specify except for itself, so not only does it do everything that we've already talked about, but it replaces itself. It isn't ultra rare. I think I saw the pre-sales at $25. $75 for a set of this card, again, might not necessarily be in your budget, but if you want to play competitively, I think this is a card that's going to be in almost everybody's side deck moving forward, so make sure you guys pick it up. Now, next on the list, we have the World Sea Dragon Zealantis. This card is pretty crazy. Let me go ahead and read it for you guys. So first things first, we need to take a look at its summoning condition, which is just 1+ effect monster. So for a link 4, that in and of itself is kind of wild, but the effect reads, you can only control one World Sea Dragon Zealantis. You can only use each of the following effects of World Sea Dragon Zealantis once per turn. During your main phase, you can banish as many monsters on the field as possible, then special summon as many monsters banished by this effect as possible to their owner's fields in face-up attack position, face-up defense position, or face-down defense position. During the battle phase, quick effect, you can destroy cards on the field up to the number of co-link monsters on the field. Now, let's go back to its summoning condition being 1+ effect monsters. This is the only link that I know of that is a link 2 or higher that is able to just be swapped from another link of its exact same link rating. So if you have a link 4, you can just swap it into this thing, which is kind of crazy because when you look at cards like Access Code Talker, even though you can't respond to the activation of the effective Access Code Talker, it is very common play to use something like an Effect Veiler or an Infinite Impermanence after the access code has resolved, because then you are allowed to just essentially negate it. So if you negate the access code, you can swap the access code into this and then banish all the cards on the field. They are going to summon back, but you get to choose not only the positions, but since it is your effect that is essentially doing this, you're able to choose the zones that it goes to as well, meaning that when you look at this card's second effect of in the battle phase, you can banish cards up to the number of co-linked monsters. You can choose how many monsters are co-linked. If you're banishing a bunch of links off of this card's effect, you can essentially just pick and choose the positions and set up any number of co-links that you want, which then makes this card absolutely insane for just clearing a board when your access code or even like your Appaloosa or any other link 4 gets negated. So again, looking back at like Appaloosa, if they negate it, it would go to 0 attack. You swap it into this thing and now you're just pretty much good to go. So absolutely insane link 4. I am kind of scared if they continue, if this becomes a trend, or rather, if they start making link 2s and link 3s that can just swap from other link 2s and 3s. So we'll see how much of an impact this makes on the competitive scene, but a lot of people are thinking it's going to be absolutely crazy, so make sure you guys pick one up. It is going to be a secret rare, but I don't think it'll end up being too expensive, so let's go ahead and move on to the next card. So that was actually it for the one of cards. Now we're actually going to be talking about a couple of cards that you need to pick up, and we are going to start that off with the Sprite cards. So we're getting 2 new Sprite cards, a Link Monster and a Trap. The Link Monster is Sprite Sprind, and the Trap is Double Cross. Let's go ahead and read them for you guys. So we've got Sprite Sprind, which is a Link 2, and its effect reads, cannot be used as Link material the turn this card is Link summoned. You can only use one of the following effects of Sprite Sprind per turn, and only once that turn. If this card is Link summoned, you can send one level 2 monster from your deck to the graveyard. If another monster's is special summoned while this monster is on your field, except during the damage step, you can detach one material from your monster, then target one monster on the field, return it to the hand. Now, this card is incredible because of cards like the Nimble package. You can use this to send a card like Nimble Angler, which will then summon 2 Nimbles from your deck, and this essentially turns any 2 material into any 4 material. Now, the restriction of not being able to use it as Link material doesn't necessarily matter because you're just going to overlay into your Gigantic Sprite, because Gigantic Sprite can be made using a Link monster as material. So not only are you still able to use it as material for something else, but you're also now getting a 3200 attack Gigantic Sprite as well, and it's just kind of loading your board with much needed materials. Now that we don't have Ronin Totem, it's kind of hard to get a lot of materials on board, so this is the way that you do it, and this is the way that you still easily make a card like Totally Awesome, because when you summon off the Gigantic Sprite, when you get the Swap Frog, you can now use the Gigantic Sprite that you made off of the Sprind and let's say one of your Nimble Beavers to summon the swap. You still have the Gigantic and another Nimble monster. Now you can take those and make those into Elf, leaving the Swap Frog on your field so that the Elf is free to reborn the other copy of Swap and making a Toad. So just a really good utility card. It is a secret rare, hopefully not too expensive, but let's go ahead and talk about Sprite Double Cross. Now, Sprite Double Cross is a really cool card because it is essentially like a pseudo DD Crow / mind control / change of heart. Now, what it does is target one monster on the field or in either graveyard to activate one of these effects. Attach it to your rank 2 monster as material. If your opponent controls it, place it in your zone that a Link 2 monster points to and take control of it. If it is in the graveyard, special summon it to a zone your Link 2 monster points to. You can only activate one Sprite Double Cross per turn. So I'm sure you can see why this is an incredible card. Not only are you able to search it off of Sprite Jet, meaning that you have some other form of interruption, because a lot of times off of the Jet you're searching your starter so you don't lose to Dark Ruler, or your Smashers if you're not afraid of Dark Ruler, but this is just another option to throw into the mix, and you're usually going to, at the very bare minimum, have a Link 2, meaning you can take control of a monster from your opponent's field or their graveyard, but with the new combos, a lot of the time times you actually are leaving Gigantic Sprite face up as well, so if it's something that you just want to kind of make entirely unobtainable, you can even attach it to your Gigantic Sprite, making this an absolutely insane card. I believe it's only a super, so it should be easy enough to get. If you're playing Sprite, these are two cards you absolutely need moving forward, so make sure you get your hands on them at sneak peek. Now, for the next group of cards that we are going to talk about, we are going to be talking about Tearlaments. Now, Tearlaments took the meta by storm. A lot of people thought Sprite was going to be the best deck. That was quickly proven wrong with Tearlament being the best deck. There are 4 cards, so we're not going to read them all. You guys can go ahead and look them up if you need to, but all of them are relatively good in their own aspect. I'm not quite sure of the ratios that are going to be played, but with Tearlament being the best deck and shaping up to get even better with the Magnificent Maven set that comes out next month, and we finally get those Ishizu cards, this deck might actually be tier 0. That's the term that a lot of people were throwing around at the start of the format, thinking that Sprite was going to be tier 0. It is not, unfortunately, but this, once we get those Ishizu cards, might actually hit that benchmark. So if you're playing Tearlaments, if you're not playing Tearlaments and you want to, doesn't matter. Even if you're just getting them to hold on to and move at a later time, these are cards that I absolutely think you need to be on the lookout for, because Tearlaments is a crazy strategy that, honestly, like I said, is already the best deck in the game at the time of recording this video, but it is only going to get better in the coming month or two, so make sure you get your hands on the new Tearlament cards. And lastly, we are going to be talking about an archetype that is essentially just DD Crow on steroids, and if you don't know what it is going to be Bestial. Now, Bestial is an archetype that every single, well, not every single, but most of the monsters will DD Crow a light or dark monster from either graveyard and then special summon themselves, and then they get additional effects if they're summoned as well. The only one that is not a DD Crow is the Lubellion, but Lubellion is good in and of itself because it searches you the trap card. I believe it's called Branded Beast, and that is another form of interruption as well. So I'm sure you guys have heard of this deck or seen this deck. It's not really a deck in and of itself, but it's splashable in a lot of other archetypes, and with DD Crow being the best hand trap, why wouldn't you want to play an entire archetype that is essentially DD Crow, but also does more for you, especially with the best deck in the game being Tearlaments, which are primarily dark. You are able to just use these to stop your opponent from playing while setting up a board on turn 0. If you lose the dice roll or the coin toss or however you guys do it, rock, paper, scissors, doesn't matter, and your opponent goes first and they're playing something that Bestials are able to banish, you can set up a board on their turn even though you lost the dice roll, and that's just absolutely insane. So these cards are also going to be relatively cheap because other than Lubellion, they are all super rare and common. So I believe I saw the Lubellion pre-selling at $50, but good news for you, the Lubellion is one that you only usually play one copy of anyway. Since it isn't a DD Crow, you aren't going to maximize on it. It's one of those things that you're going to get by other means, so you only need one copy of it. The other ones though, you're going to want to play 2 to 3 because, like I said, they are just another hand trap, and they are incredible, and being supers and commons should be relatively easy to get your hands on, so hopefully you guys are able to pick up the Bestials. I know that I am looking for them personally because a good friend of mine made an absolutely insane deck using them that I want to show you guys, so yeah, make sure that you be on the lookout for the Bestial cards during the sneak peek. And that is going to be it, guys. Those are the most important cards that I think you should be on the lookout for once Darkwing Blast releases. Whether it's at the sneak peek or if you're not able to go to the sneak peek, if you can just pick them up once the set actually releases. These cards are absolutely incredible, and I think every single one of them on this list is going to be meta-defining in some aspect or another. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this style of video. Like I said, I don't usually do a lot of discussion videos, but with the new set coming up and with it being as insanely good as it is, I want to bring you guys my thoughts on what you guys should be on the lookout for. So if you liked it, you know the deal. Make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, like, comment, share with your friends, maybe consider supporting me on Patreon. And again, if you enjoy these style of videos, I just want to emphasize, make sure that you smash that like button, because that is the best way to let me know that you want to see more of these in the future. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.